If your ads and marketing are blending in, you are losing. If you sell boring, unsexy B2B, I'm talking manufacturing, services, consultancies, things like that, and your messaging and your adverts look and sound and feel exactly the same as everybody else in your industry, you are invisible and you are not getting the results you should be doing. But here's the thing, just because you work in a boring traditional industry does not mean that your advertising and your marketing and your messaging needs to be boring as well. Today, in this video, I'm going to give you 2 brutal frameworks and 2 quick exercises or drills that you can do straight after watching this video that will help you create scroll-stopping LinkedIn ads or any other social media content, even if your offer is as dry as a nun's flip-flop. I think I've got 2 metaphors mixed up there, but you get what I'm on about. Now let's get into it and get rid of some cliches. I use these exercises and frameworks day in, day out for B2B business owners and marketing teams who might have a less sexy product but still want to get more leads more often. The first framework I've created is the chaos framework, CHAOS. This is perfect when your product fixes a messy, broken or frustrating process because you don't want to sell features, you're selling relief. So chaos, what that stands for, is the confession of the pain, how things normally go, anger and you're agitating that anger, our fix, and then the solution and sanity restored. The best way this works is if you write it from the point of view of your potential buyer, your customer, where they're confessing the pain that they had to go through before they worked with you. And normally that's a really relatable pain point, an issue that is rife in the industry you're selling to. The H for how it normally goes or how things normally are is the backwards, broken steps or processes that, again, everyone in the industry is using before they worked with someone like you and your product or service. The A is actually communicating across your potential customers' anger and agitation around how annoying, another A there, annoying, that process that they're currently doing is, or the customer that you had was doing, and how that annoyance and anger is costing them time, money, sanity, and ultimately killing their business. Now, our fix and the outcome is your solution. What are you doing? Why are you doing this better than anyone else? It's best if it's like a really simple thing like, now it's 1 click, done. And ultimately, whatever sort of business or service you're operating in, you are solving a problem and solution and you're doing it to make it much easier, much more efficient and much more effective, or other competing products or business they might choose instead of you. And that S is sort of that calming feeling that now is the new normal because you've solved and fixed their problem. And it's ultimately you're trying to communicate that feeling that would happen if the customer seeing, watching or reading your ad would feel after they work with you. You might have loads of different benefits, USPs and use cases that you can apply to the chaos framework. Don't try and do it all in one ad. Also, don't necessarily try and communicate all these benefits and USPs to all your entire customer base. Go specific with 1 or 2 actual problems that are really specific to a certain type of buyer. That way it will resonate much, much more when they're scrolling through LinkedIn and it will mean more to them. Don't try and mean everything to everyone. Get super specific and drill down because that specificity hits a lot harder on the timeline and gets them to stop them from scrolling. Why it works, especially because you're writing it from the point of view of a customer, is because it feels real to them and they can associate and identify with the problems that you're facing in that first initial bit of the chaos framework. Rather than leading about you and your business, you're making it about them and they care about themselves a lot more than they care about you. This second framework is a bit different because it's all about lifting the lid on a secret thing that the best companies in their industry are using. And that insider knowledge and secret tactic or hack that's getting them ahead. But it's not a secret tactic or hack, they're using you. They've bought your product or service to solve their problems. That is the SYNC framework, S-I-N-K. S stands for still stuck in the same way or still doing this like that. I is the insider signal. What are the smart operators doing? N is around new game, new rules. K is for the killer edge your buyer gets. This taps into that fear of missing out, FOMO, which we all have every day, but you're targeting at your buyer at their fear of missing out that next golden opportunity, the thing that's taken away their issues, problems, and is helping them get ahead. And it also puts people into sort of 2 different camps where you're elevating the people status that do know about it and have that insider information and are the ones who are ahead of the game and almost making other people feel a bit shameful that they're not ahead of the game. They didn't know about this and they desperately now want to find out about this secret insider intel or amazing product or service that you are selling. And they're almost embarrassed that they didn't hear about you sooner. This one works really well, especially if you're selling to maybe more savvy tech sort of audiences or founder-led businesses. And we've seen it work really well for very specific software tools where you're selling into that founder or managing director, because they're the ones who might be a bit more entrepreneurial and willing to look at technological advancements or things that make their business go quicker, faster, bolder, stronger, and more efficiently. And they don't want to get left behind because they're not using your product or service. Right, those two frameworks will help you write better ads, better ad concepts today and forever going forward. And a really great way to make sure that your ad copy isn't just waffling on and not really getting to the point of what it's trying to do is to sell that click and sell your product. The next one are two sort of creative drills or exercises that you and your team can do to start thinking of better ideas every day. And look, if you're watching this video and working in B2B marketing, you probably do have some good ideas. You just need to get that spark going, get that initial fire so you can start getting some momentum and start creating more ideas. This is what these two drills can do. The first one's called the ego trip. And this one's great, and it's also deadly because it makes the buyer the hero, not necessarily your offer and what you're pitching. You need to ask yourself, what's the brag-worthy sentence that your customer and your ideal customer persona will say after buying? Then you can reverse engineer your ads, your blogs, your messaging from that. Really drill into, and you might get this from actually speaking to customers, reading some reviews, reading good feedback that your team received. What's the thing they're bragging about to people in their office, to competitors, to their partners at home, about what happens after they use your product? This is a great way to generate headlines as well for your ad concepts. Things like, I finally fixed our onboarding mess. I saved 12k in 3 weeks. I look like a genius to my boss. This subtle shift of you could be looking like a genius to your boss to I look like a genius to my boss in quote marks as a headline, again, just hits that much harder because it's placing them in the person's shoes that you're writing about. And they want to be using that brag-worthy line in 3-6 months' time after they've worked with you. The second creative drill is called Zoom In Headline. Again, it's going to generate you some amazing headlines, but also build that momentum to spark some creative ideas off the back of it. A real issue is most B2B ads try to say everything, and loads of companies are guilty of this. You can win and make better, more compelling, more clickable ad content by zooming into one hyper-specific, emotionally charged moment in their day, ready to go. You're actually zooming on the specific use case and how they would interact with your product or service in their day-to-day lives. Again, the reason this works is it feels like a scene that is happening to them, or that could theoretically happen to them, rather than you pitching a bunch of features, a list of what your product does, and then ultimately the history and how you got there. They do not care about you, they care about themselves, the way they feel, the way they can make their job easier, or the way they can make themselves more successful and their business grow faster. All right, let's make this a bit more real for you. You can see how it works in practice. We're going to take a boring, typical B2B product. In fact, this is one I spoke to not long ago, and I'm just going to change a few things, such as the name, so not to make it too obvious. But it's an ERP system or a software for industrial manufacturers. And I'll run you through each of the creative frameworks. Our fake company for this is going to be called Forge OS, and this whole angle is it's the ERP built for manufacturers who hate ERPs. If you're sitting there thinking, what is an ERP? Don't worry, it's basically a type of software that integrates and manages a company's core business processes, whether it be like finance, HR, supply chain, into a system, so it's got real-time data. You'll have seen or maybe even use yourself a software like this to streamline operations, increase efficiency, and to basically help decision-making across lots of different departments, especially as a business grows a bit bigger than just speaking to someone who's sitting next to you. So first up with the chaos framework, like this framework is perfect if you're advertising to people who are dealing with messy, inefficient, frustrating processes. So think about like manufacturing companies buried in spreadsheets, different systems and drives all over the place, and manual updates they've got to communicate across to big teams that are already busy doing stuff. This sort of thing hits really well. So if you think that's C, the confession straight away, one thing that's obvious, and you might have seen it in other softwares advertising, is they'll talk around how we have 4 different systems. None of them talk to each other. And again, that's sort of the use case of an ERP, is it brings a lot of things together in one streamlined way. H, how it usually goes, we've got our inventory in Excel, we've got our orders via email, production schedules updated manually, twice a week if we remembered. Those first 2 bits of the framework are so your ideal customer that you want to target and you want to attract with your ad sees themselves in it because they are that person. They know all too well the problems that you're identifying in C and H, because really that's how their life is at the minute and how their work is going at the minute. So remember, A is anger, annoyance, and agitating it as well. And for theirs, it could be one time we lost 30k in downtime because someone forgot to update a spreadsheet. That like facepalm moment which causes argument in the office, that story is probably all too familiar with people that need this ERP software. And For this company, their target audience of manufacturing businesses who've maybe scaled to a point where what used to work, when it was just a couple of them working together, all hands on deck, now doesn't. Oh, our fix, the fix they implemented, we replaced it all with ForgeOS. One system, real-time data, zero surprises. That zero surprises is the key thing here. Last letter S for that solution and that sanity being restored. Now when orders come in, the floor's already ready. Stock's accurate. No more yelling. That no more yelling at the end adds a bit more of a human touch and just, again, places people in that environment of where they are right now, where it might cause friction, it causes issues, and it could cause yelling arguments in certain offices or environments because they haven't got their shit sorted, which ForgeOS would help them do. That's not really an ad. That's a story that this company's ideal customer persona, their specific target audience, is living through day after day, and they can resonate with, and they want fixing. And the key thing here is you'll notice it's not a feature list. You've broken down the issue, you've identified the win, and you've shown them a transformation. Now let's run this company through the SYNC framework, S-I-N-K. And ultimately it's built for one thing, is triggering status, where you're not just showing your product, you're showing them, your target audience, that they are, unfortunately, they're behind and they're missing out. You want them to feel like others are ahead. You want them to feel like other people are ahead, and if they don't move soon, they are sinking, hence the SYNC framework. So again, you'll see on the screen here what I've come up with that applies to that SYNC framework, where you're setting up the buyer to feel that sting, not with shame, but like a mirror that holds itself to them, where they are still running all the things based on the spreadsheets that nobody trusts from 2006. That insider signal, which is revealing to them that top operations leaders in companies like theirs have already moved on. They're switching to ERPs built for factory floors, not corporate ITs, ones that actually make a difference in their business. You're planting the idea in them that the smart ones are already using your product or service, and no one wants to be the last dinosaur holding a clipboard, again, doing things the old way. And again, this links closely into N for the new game and new rules bit. You want to raise the stakes a bit and indicate that delays and downtime aren't just annoying, they're actually how you lose contracts in 2026. It's not just about smoother processes. Again, it's about not getting left behind, and no one wants to feel like they're getting left behind. And K is the final thing, that killer edge, and you need to make sure it's not just what the tool does, it's how they actually look and feel and the rewards and results they're getting from when they use it. ForgeOS gives you live visibility from quote to shipment without the bloated enterprise crap. You'll look like a genius, your ops team will think you're psychic. This killer edge, again, it's not necessarily about the boring specs and features of the product. It's the actual feeling that the person you're selling to is making the decision that is going to be the one that clicks to book on a call with you and signs off on the invoice that's going to pay you, how they're going to feel and how it's going to make their life, their work, their career better and easier, and how they're going to impress and, again, trigger that status and that feeling that they want around other people in their office, whether it be their team because they're the owner of the business, or whether it be their bosses, their managers who are responsible for their raises, their bonuses and their promotions. Remember, yes, it's business to business, but ultimately you're selling to a person, and too many B2B companies forget about that completely. You need to appeal to your specific customer and build in their head the positive emotions they're going to feel after having worked with you and chose to go with your product or service. Right, and the first exercise to help spark some creative ideas is the ego trip. What's the thing they're going to boast about after having worked with you? Here's a few that I came up with for this ERP system. I made our factory 22% more efficient without hiring a single extra head. It's a big personal win. It leans into like ROI and smart decision making, but also that sort of brag of, yeah, we got better. We didn't even have to spend that much more money with it because we didn't have to hire any more people. Next one, our ops team finally trust the data and each other. Again, that sort of leans into that internal chaos, and what might have been happening before is causing friction, unnecessary friction in the team because things weren't organised. And it also positions the buyer as like a leader and their culture and status within the company because they solve that problem and help build team morale and trust across the business, which is obviously good and helps everything else going forward. My boss said this is the smoothest we've ever run. Again, because they're getting a pat on the back, validation from the person that matters in terms of their promotions, bonus, etc. and showing them, right, yes, you're the reason, and your decision to get this product or service is the reason it's the smoothest it's ever felt. And who doesn't want to make their business feel like it's the smoothest it's ever been running? Especially for the types of roles and job titles that this fictional, as I say, completely fictional company would actually be selling to in terms of operations managers, COOs, managing directors, and people responsible for efficiency, communication, and all things like that. This is what they're judged on. If things are feeling like they're running smoother than ever, that person is a godsend and probably employee of the month, 12 months of the year. Another one is, now I see what's happening on the floor before anyone calls me. Again, especially for founder-led businesses, this is a really important one because as the business grows, they might feel like they've lost a bit of control, and with that, they've lost a bit of confidence. This makes them feel like a boss again, and they own their business because they can see what's happening. live real-time dashboards, and they don't need to get chippy and annoying with their staff that might be doing stuff, and they might actually be on top of jobs, but they're not communicating it back, and the boss can't have visibility on that 24/7. Again, this ego trip drill, and not to sound too Sigmund Freudy or any psychoanalysis, but it works because it taps into the buyer's status. They don't just want a tool or a software, they want the win. They want to win that makes them look smart, makes them look incredible. Tap into that and figure out how the people who buy your product or service and the ones who make the decisions and pay the invoices to you, what would they brag about? Because this can make really compelling, really high click-through rate ads that can help skyrocket your ad campaigns and ultimately get you more real results and ROI across all your marketing efforts. Last one is that zoom in headline drill. Most ads and most marketing messages for B2B companies, they zoom out too far because they go too broad because they want to try and communicate everything in one go. Broad ends up being boring, but zooming in makes it feel sticky and super precise and super relevant to the person reading it. Instead of having something boring and bland like modern ERP for industrial teams, which is quite close to this fictional company's actual headline on the website, you could think about having this instead. The floor manager caught the stock issue before it became a shutdown. Again, it's talking about them, not talking about you. Why is it here? As a reminder again, it's a scene that your ideal customer can actually picture and has probably been through countless times themselves. And it shows real world stakes. What you want to do with this is it makes your product feel like a difference maker, again, not just another tool on the market. All these things can help stand you out and stand your boring, unsexy B2B business out versus competitors that are talking like everybody else. If you sell something B2B and want your ads to hit harder, use chaos to expose the mess, use sync to hit your customer's status, play up to their ego and make your buyer the hero, and zoom in and get super specific and personal. No more safe ads and no more trusted by clients worldwide rubbish. If you've watched all this video, please steal them, please use them. If you're really suffering from writer's block and can't come up with any ideas, drop your business's website below and I'll give these ideas for you for free, or you can book in a call at the description below. What Evergreen Growth Marketing does is create scroll-stopping ad campaigns for B2B businesses, right from this idea stage up to the design, the implementation, the management, the optimizing it, and making sure you get more leads more often, real results and revenue for your business. I've got plenty of other videos you can check out that help you get better at B2B marketing and again, get more leads more often. Cheers, thanks, bye.